Imagine finding a house so silent, so still, it screams secrets. What if that silence was broken by something you can't explain? Something waiting by a pond rumored to be cursed. This is the nightmare that unfolded for one young woman, and I'm about to reveal every chilling detail. The feeling of dread. It started the moment I saw it. The house stood like a skeleton against the gray sky, windows like hollow eyes. This is Sarah's story. For her, urban exploration was a hobby, a way to touch history. But this house was different. It wasn't just old. It felt drunk. It was a dare that led her there, a local legend about the old property on the edge of town that nobody dared to visit. She wanted to prove the stories were just stories. She was wrong. As Sarah pushed open the creaking front door, a wave of cold, musty air hit her. But it wasn't just the decay. There's another chill, an unnatural cold that seemed to cling to her clothes. Drawn by an unseen pull, she made her way through the decaying rooms to the back of the house. Through a grimy window, she saw it for the first time. A murky, still pond, almost completely hidden by overgrown reeds and weeping willows. The water was black and uninviting. She would later describe it as feeling an unnatural pull, a sense of being watched, not from the house, but from the water itself. A shiver, deep and primal, ran down her spine. This was only the beginning. Stepping deeper into the house was like stepping into a tomb. The silence was heavy, thick, broken only by the sound of her own breathing and the creak of floorboards under her feet. Then it started. A flicker of a light in a room with no electricity. A soft whisper that seemed to come from the walls themselves. A sibilant sound she couldn't quite make out, like a secret being shared just for her. Doors she knew she had closed would be found slightly ajar. Her heart hammered in her chest. The initial thrill of exploration souring into genuine, stomach-churning fear. She wasn't just exploring an empty house. She felt like an intruder in a place that was still very much occupied. In what must have been a study, dust motes dancing in the single beam of light from her phone, she found it. A small, leather-bound journal, tucked away in a splintered desk drawer. Its pages were brittle, the ink faded, but the words were terrifyingly clear. It belonged to a woman who had lived there decades ago. The entries started normally but quickly descended into paranoia and fear. The woman wrote of sleepless nights, of a shadow she'd see at the edge of her vision, a figure that was always beckoning her, leading her outside, towards the pond. Sarah's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a house. It was a place of tragedy. Scattered near the journal were other relics: a child's worn-out shoe, a tarnished silver locket with the photo missing. Each object felt heavy with sorrow. As the sun began to set, casting long, grotesque shadows across the rooms, Sarah started seeing it too. A fleeting movement in her peripheral vision. A tall, slender shadow that would appear for a split second in a darkened doorway or reflected in a shard of broken mirror. It was never clear, just an impression of a figure. But it was always there, just out of focus. And every single time she saw it, it seemed to be subtly guiding her, pulling her attention back towards the rear of the house, back towards that dark, silent pond. Her rational mind screamed at her to leave, to run and never look back. But a morbid curiosity, a terrifying need to understand, kept her rooted to the spot. Driven by the chilling journal entries and the spectral encounters, Sarah spent the next few days diving into local archives, obsessed. The truth she uncovered was worse than any ghost story. A century ago, the property was the site of a terrible tragedy. A family, the original owners, had vanished without a trace. Local lore, dismissed as superstition, spoke of a ritual gone wrong, of something being summoned and bound to the pond. They said the water demanded a price, a life, to keep its dark secret buried. The pond wasn't just a body of water. It was a prison, or perhaps a gateway. The whispers in the house, the shadowy figure it, was all connected to what lay beneath that still, black surface. With this newfound knowledge, the pond transformed in her mind. It was no longer just a feature of the landscape. It was a malevolent character in this unfolding nightmare. She swore she could see faint ripples spreading from the center of the pond, even when there was no wind. At dusk, a thick, unnatural mist would rise from its surface, coiling like grasping fingers. She felt its pull constantly now, a siren's call in the back of her mind, a cold invitation to come closer. The house was the cage, but the pond was the heart of the darkness. Then came the most terrifying revelation of all. While digging through Old Town records, Sarah found a name she recognized from the journal of the woman who had vanished. It was a distant relative, an ancestor she never knew she had. The horror crashed over her in a suffocating wave. This wasn't a random haunting, it was personal. The house knew her blood. The pond was calling to her, not just as an intruder, but as family. Was this a warning from a lost ancestor, or was the entity that took her now reaching out for the next in line? She realized with sickening certainty that she was connected to this place, tied by a cursed legacy she never knew existed. That night, she couldn't resist. The pull was no longer a gentle tug. It was an overwhelming compulsion. Sleep was impossible. Every shadow in her room seemed to twist into that familiar, lanky figure. Every creak of her own house sounded like the floorboards of the abandoned one. In a trance-like state, Sarah got in her car and drove back. She had to confront it. The moon was full, casting a sickly, silver light over the property as she walked towards the pond. The air was unnaturally cold and still. The mist was thicker than ever, obscuring the far bank. As she reached the water's edge, a voice whispered directly in her ear, the same sibilant whisper from the house. But now the words were clear. "You've come home." From the center of the pond, the water began to churn. The shadowy figure she had only glimpsed before now rose from the mist, coalescing on the bank right in front of her. It wasn't a ghost. It was something older, something wrong. It had the shape of a person, but no features. Just a void in the air that seemed to absorb the light around it. And in that moment, she understood. It wasn't the spirit of her ancestor. It was the thing that had taken her. It was a warden, a guardian of whatever lay buried in the pond, and it had been waiting for the next blood relative to arrive, to take the place of the last. It reached a shadowy hand towards her, and Sarah finally broke free from the trance. S'escrime the raw, primal sound, and scrambled backward, turning and running without looking back, the sound of that cold, possessive whisper echoing in her mind. Did she truly escape? It's a question that haunts Sarah to this day. Physically, she got away. She never went back to that house, never looked at that pond again. But mentally, the scars remain. She suffers from terrible nightmares. She still sees that shadowy figure at the edge of her vision, even in the safety of her own home. She's obsessed, constantly researching, trying to find a way to break a curse that has its hooks so deep in her lineage. The ordeal left more questions than answers. What is the entity that guards the pond? What happened to her ancestor and potentially others before her? Is the curse waiting patiently, knowing that sooner or later it will claim her? Or is it biding its time for the next generation? Sarah's story is a terrifying reminder that some doors are meant to stay closed, and some secrets are meant to remain buried. What do you think is haunting that property? Is it a ghost or something far more ancient and sinister? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you have a local legend or a chilling experience of your own, I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the unknown. Stay safe out there. Imagine waking up and everything around you has changed. Not gradually, not subtly, but drastically, overnight. What if the world you went to sleep in isn't the one you woke up to? Tonight, we re-diving into the chilling true accounts of midnight change, a phenomenon where the environment shifts without explanation, leaving behind a profound, terrifying impact on those who experience it. What if midnight isn't just a time, but a trigger for something far more unsettling? Stay with us as we explore the whispers of an altered world. These aren't just stories, they are fragments of shattered realities, pieced together from the trembling voices of those who've lived through it. Take Sarah, a woman from a quiet suburban town. For 20 years, a magnificent old oak tree stood sentinel in her front yard. It was her landmark, the first thing she saw every morning. One Tuesday, she woke up, brewed her coffee, and glanced out the window. The oak was gone. In its place stood a massive, weather-worn boulder, covered in moss that looked ancient, as if it had been there for centuries. There was no disturbed soil, no sawdust, no sign that the tree had ever existed. Her husband saw the rock and said, "That old thing. It's been there since we moved in." But Sarah knew. She remembered the feel of its bark, the way its leaves turned gold in the autumn. For her, a piece of her world had been surgically removed and replaced, and she was the only one who noticed. Sarah's story, while terrifying, is not unique. As we delve deeper, we find a disturbing pattern woven through these accounts. The changes, whether big or small, almost always happen around midnight. It's the witching hour, the time when the world is quietest. Victims report waking up to find familiar paintings on their walls, replaced with different ones, street layouts rearranged, or even the color of their own house altered. The common thread is the seamlessness of the change. There's no evidence of human intervention, no logical explanation. It's as if reality itself was edited while they slept. This consistency has led some to form small, online communities, what they call the Midnight Change Research Collective. They share stories, compare notes, and desperately search for answers. They're not scientists, but survivors, cataloging the glitches in their own existence. They float theories, from localized reality shifts to collective memory wipes. But nothing solid ever emerges. All they have are the shared feelings of profound unease and the chilling knowledge that they are not alone in their experience. The most enduring scar left by these events isn't the altered environment itself, but the deep, psychological wound it inflicts. Imagine the constant, gnawing anxiety. If a tree can vanish overnight, what else can change? Can people? Can your own memories? This isn't just disorientation, it's a fundamental crisis of reality. Survivors speak of a persistent feeling of derealization, as if they're living in a dream they can't wake up from. They become hyper-vigilant, constantly scanning their surroundings for new discrepancies, documenting their daily lives in a desperate attempt to anchor themselves to a reality that feels like it's slipping through their fingers. The mental toll is immense. This feeling of isolation is made worse by the reactions of those around them. When you try to explain that the park down the street used to have a fountain, not a statue, and everyone looks at you with pity or concern, you learn to stay silent. Friends and family often dismiss their claims as memory lapses, stress-induced confusion, or even the onset of mental illness. This skepticism drives the survivors further inward, trapping them in a solitary prison of their own altered perception. They are gaslit, not by a person, but by the world itself. Their struggle becomes a quiet, desperate battle to adapt to a new normal while mourning a world that only they seem to remember. They live with a constant, quiet dread, forever watching the clock tick towards midnight, wondering what tomorrow will erase. Naturally, the rational mind scrambles for an explanation. Could these be simple memory discrepancies? False memories are a well-documented phenomenon. Perhaps stress or lack of sleep caused a moment of confusion that the brain later solidified as a change. Or maybe they're elaborate sleep-induced hallucinations, hypnopompic visions that bleed into the waking world. These explanations are comforting, and for many isolated incidents, they might even be true. But they begin to fall apart when you look at the sheer consistency across hundreds of unrelated accounts, the specific midnight timing, the seamless and inexplicable nature of the changes. The shared emotional fallout these patterns suggest something more than just individual psychological quirks. It's one thing for a person to misremember a detail. It's another for a dozen strangers across the globe to wake up describing the same impossible phenomenon. Beyond the shared timing, there are other cryptic clues that surface in witness testimonies. Some speak of a faint, lingering scent after a change, often described as smelling like ozone or static electricity. Others mention a low, almost subaudible hum that they hear just before falling asleep on the nights of a shift. A few have even reported seeing a fleeting, shimmering effect in their peripheral vision upon waking, like heat haze on a summer road before it vanishes. These details are small, insignificant on their own, but when they're repeated by people who have never met, living thousands of miles apart, they form a chilling mosaic. The survivors themselves, pushed to the edge of reason, have considered every possibility. Are they slipping between parallel universes? Are they test subjects in some unfathomable experiment? While these theories sound like science fiction to someone whose reality is already fractured, no idea is too strange to consider. We've journeyed into the shadows, into the unsettling accounts of the Midnight Change. The stories are disturbing, the implications profound, but the most important question remains. How many others have experienced this and remained silent, fearing disbelief and ridicule? If you've ever woken up to a world that felt subtly, inexplicably wrong, you are not alone. We encourage you to share your story in the comments below. Let's create a space where these experiences can be heard and validated. A community to counter the isolation. While hypothetical research collectives search for patterns in the dark, the greatest resource we have is each other. The more we share, the clearer the picture might become. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more explorations into the unexplained. Stay safe, and perhaps do not leave a light on. You never know what the darkness might change. You think you know Silicon Valley? The shiny campuses, the world-changing innovations, the apps that promise to make your life better. What if I told you the truth behind the curtain is far darker, far more unsettling than anything you've imagined? Tonight, we're not just looking at technology. We're peering into the abyss that stares back. Prepare to see the tech world not as it presents itself, but as it truly is, a place where ambition often veils chilling secrets. We're all drawn to the allure of innovation, aren't we? Silicon Valley has crafted a masterful public image, a modern-day Camelot built on disruption and progress. They sell us a dream, an app for every problem, a device for every need, a seamless digital life where everything is just a click away. They promise to connect us, to empower us to solve the world's most complex issues with elegant lines of code. It's a beautiful, glossy veneer. But if you look closely at the edges, you can see it starting to peel. You can catch a glimpse of something darker lurking just beneath the surface. A faint, unsettling hum beneath the symphony of progress. Let's start with the human cost, the very foundation upon which this digital empire is built. Inside those futuristic glass buildings, a silent crisis is unfolding. The infamous burnout culture isn't just a meme. It's a brutal reality. The pressure to innovate, to compete, to be constantly on, is relentless. We hear stories of employees sleeping under their desks, working 100-hour weeks, their mental and physical health sacrificed at the altar of the next product launch. This isn't just hard work. It's a system that grinds people down, leaving a trail of anxiety and despair that no stock option can cure. And then there are the algorithms, the invisible puppet masters of our digital lives. We're told they are neutral, just math, but that's a dangerous lie. These systems, designed by a small, homogeneous group of people, are riddled with their creators' unconscious biases. They decide who gets a loan, who sees a job advertisement, even who is flagged as a potential criminal. Unchecked, this algorithmic bias doesn't just reflect our societal inequalities, it amplifies them, creating a digital caste system where the privileged are promoted and the marginalized are pushed further into the shadows. The code is not just lines on a screen. It's a sentence, a judgment passed down by an unfeeling, invisible judge. Think about your phone. It feels personal, doesn't it? It holds your photos, your messages, your most private thoughts. Now, imagine someone looking over your shoulder every second of every day. That is the reality of data harvesting. We are living in an era of unprecedented surveillance, willingly trading our privacy for convenience. Every click, every search, every like is collected, cataloged, and sold to the highest bidder. They know who you talk to, where you go, what you fear, and what you desire. This isn't just about targeted ads for shoes you looked at once. It's about building a psychological profile so detailed it can predict and influence your next move. You are not the customer. You are the product, and your life is the raw material being mined for profit. The most unsettling part. We clicked. I agree. The business models themselves are often designed with a chilling purpose. Let's unveil the unethical practices that have become standard. Think of the endless scroll, the notification pings, the streaks you can't bear to lose. These aren't happy accidents. They are predatory monetization strategies. They are features engineered by behavioral psychologists to hook you, to exploit your brain's vulnerabilities, to foster a dependency that borders on addiction. Your attention is the currency, and they will stop at nothing to capture every last second of it. This is all born from the infamous move fast and break things mentality. A mantra that sounds bold and innovative, but what is it that they're breaking? Ethical considerations, user well-being, sometimes even the law. In the race for rapid growth and market dominance, corners are not just cut, they are obliterated. The long-term consequences are an afterthought, a problem for someone else to clean up later, but we are living in that later. And what happens when someone from the inside tries to sound the alarm? We hear the heroic but terrifying stories of whistleblowers, individuals who, haunted by their conscience, dare to expose the truth. They risk their careers, their reputations, and their safety to speak out against these powerful tech giants. And what is the typical response? Corporate cover-ups, smear campaigns, and a wall of silence. It is a chilling reminder of the lengths these corporations will go to protect their image and their profits, silencing the few who dare to pull back the curtain. This is where innovation truly goes awry. The promise of automation was a world without tedious labor. That promise comes with a heavy cost. Job losses. As AI and robots become more capable, millions of jobs are at risk, creating a growing chasm of economic inequality. A world where a handful of tech oligarchs own the means of production, while the rest of us are left to wonder what our purpose is. The future they are building may not have a place for most of us. Then there are the platforms that were supposed to connect us. Instead, they have become engines of division. Social media algorithms are designed to show us what will keep us engaged, and nothing is more engaging than outrage. They create echo chambers, reinforcing our existing beliefs and showing us a distorted, caricatured version of those who disagree. We are being sorted into digital tribes, fed a constant stream of misinformation that deepens societal rifts until we see each other not as neighbors, but as enemies. They are not just reflecting division, they are manufacturing it for profit. All of this culminates in the rise of surveillance capitalism. The lines between convenience and constant monitoring have been completely erased. Smart homes that listen to your every conversation. Apps that track your every movement. A digital footprint so complete that escaping it is nearly impossible. This isn't a dystopian future from a sci-fi novel. It's the world we inhabit right now. We are the architects of our own digital prison, and we're paying a monthly subscription for it. But the story doesn't have to end here. This isn't a ghost story where we are helpless victims. We are the path forward begins with us. It starts with user empowerment and digital literacy. We need to learn the tools and gain the knowledge to protect ourselves in this digital age. Understand how your data is used. Be critical of the information you consume, and consciously decide how you interact with these platforms. We must also demand regulatory oversight and accountability. The era of self-regulation is over. There is a growing global demand for stricter laws and real consequences for tech companies that violate public trust. They have proven they will not police themselves, so we must compel our governments to do it for them. Finally, we need to champion the movement for ethical tech development. We must support and amplify the voices calling for a future where innovation serves humanity, not just profit. A future where technology is designed with empathy, foresight, and a deep respect for human values. The shadow of Silicon Valley is long and dark, but a single candle can defy the darkness. We have the power to be that light. Thank you for joining me on this unsettling journey. If these stories made you think, please share this video. The more people who understand the truth, the better our chances of building a better digital future. Don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the shadows. Stay safe and stay aware.